This time next year? Oh, yeah, sure. All right. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, July 6, 2022. This is the City Council, City of Providence Charter Review Commission. We're doing this meeting. We'll do roll call, vote, Madam Clerk. Please.
Chairman Johnny Diaz,
Present.
Vice Chairman Oscar Vargas is absent. Councilwoman Carmen Castillo, present. Commissioner Brian Principe,
Present.
Commissioner Ellen Sinar is absent. Commissioner Tiana Ochoa is absent. Commissioner Robert Rishi,
Present.
Commissioner Dr. Wayne Montague.
Present.
We have 5 present and 3 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Also, for this meeting, say happy America's birthday, by the way. Hope everybody had a nice holidays time. Also, let's congratulate Councilman Helen Anthony. Having no opponent in the upcoming September and November election. Congratulations, Councilman Anthony. Back here, same time, same bat channel next year. Congratulations. All right. Meanwhile, we still have more work to do. So last time we talked about, I talked about from the elected school board. We showed a presentation by Sean Bouchard, did a great job of showing the proposed all elected school board, setting up the city for 5 regions, 5 equal regions, 5 equal populations. And the proposal was that 2 elected school board members from each region. So there's representation from every neighborhood, every ward. Everybody gets a seat at the table. Everybody gets a say. It'd be a nonpartisan election. There would be, they would serve 3 4-year terms. And of course, they wouldn't have taxing authority, et cetera. And the idea, of course, was that, and I use my nation, for example, I use my neck of the woods. My neck of the woods hasn't had representation since the 70s on the school board. So, so an entire region of the city hasn't had a seat at the table for decades. So this proposal gives every neighbor, every opportunity for every area, north, south, east, west, and central, a seat at the table of school and the school department and its decision. So that was the impetus and driving force. Also have to make note that Councilman Nartucci, I see the deputy leader, he was a major advocate of this conversation. Way back for many, many years. I know he's going to get through this and say his piece, but he was one of the major advocates of bringing forth this idea of a elected school board and creating greater representation and more democracy to our system. So I got to thank Councilman Nartucci for that. So next, what we did is after the conversation, some of our commission members talked about, is it possible to brought up a question about, could there be a hybrid? You know, there could be some elected, some appointed. We talked about that. And then we asked Sean Bouchard to flesh out a proposed idea of what a hybrid could look like, right? And if it could make any sense or not, et cetera. The idea, of course, is to, we're here to be open and try to have, decent ideas and see what works, what doesn't work. So I know Sean has got a proposed hybrid idea, which is, by the way, so we've got the all elected one, and then we're going to this hybrid kind of idea. So Sean Bouchard, do you want to take us through what you think could possibly be a hybrid? So we understand that after this commission does its thing, everything does go to the city council makes a determination, and then it goes on the ballot. Remember one thing, no matter what, none of us at this table, nor even the council, will make the final decision. The people of Providence will vote on any charter change. So it's their final determination, it's their final say. I just want to make sure you understand that this is not doesn't happen here, doesn't happen in the council, it happens in the ballot box in the province. Things work out come November. Sean, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. So I think, just in terms of the hybrid model, I'll preface this in the same way I would be elected. I think it's important to understand just some of the considerations that need to be made in the event you want to go this route. And so, as you probably heard when I gave a presentation around the elected school board with the 10 members, that was kind of the quirk of the 5 regions that we resulted with 10. We've never really heard any opposition necessarily to the current number of school board members that we have, which is 9. And so, in the effort to try and maintain that number, we started trying to explore what a hybrid model could look like. Right, and Commissioner Montague raised that this is something happening in Boston as well, right? So we wanted to try and model something that, again, maintains some form of balance. If you want hybrid, it's not going to be dominated by appointees or elected. Find some sort of middle ground. As we kind of heard about during the elected portion, there's a lot of considerations around how you can figure, a electoral map so that you have balance and representation across the city when it comes to the members who are elected. So the 5 regions, again, make sense. They are compliant with the Voting Rights Act. It is a model in which you will have representation across the city. And so maintaining the 5 regions, which then could result in 5 members elected, seems to make a lot of sense. Do not put a lot of opposition necessarily to that process or those 5 being the elected individuals. So if you start with the base of 5 elected, you can add an additional 4 appointments in order to get proximity to balance there, right? It's 5-4 elected versus hybrid, or elected versus appointed. But that does get you to the same number of school board members you have currently. It is an odd number, which obviously is easier for quorum purposes, voting purposes. And so if you have that appointment procedure, if you were to hand those appointments over to the mayor, you can maintain the same appointment process that we currently have for the school board, all the same criteria that is currently in place when it comes to the vetting, the criteria in which they're assessed, the qualifications that they have, and then those individuals can be placed on the school board in addition to the elected. When you do talk about this, I think it is important to understand there is consideration around the time, effort, expense that goes into running a campaign. Becoming elected, it's not free, it's time consuming, there's a lot of effort. And so some sort of incentive for the elected representatives on the school board may be necessary. I would just flag that when it comes to compensation of school board members, that's set by ordinance to the city council budget. So in the event that there is interest to want to change any sort of compensation for elected versus appointed, that certainly can be done. It doesn't necessarily need to occur in the charter, but I think it's important to consider when deliberating this topic. When it comes to the terms that are set in the elected version that we propose, we're proposing 4-year terms for the school board members that are elected. The current charter provisions have 3-year terms for the appointments. So if you want to discuss playing with the terms, that's also something you can do. And I would just point out that if you're trying to incentivize an individual to run for elected office, having that additional year of service may be of interest. They're also beholden to the constituents they're serving, not necessarily the mayor, and not subject to a 4-3, rather full recall election. So additional protections for the elected as opposed to so, I think the proposal that again meets what you currently have in terms of the number on the school board, maintains some of the benefits that I know Commissioner Montague spoke pretty in depth on, and the team to the benefits that we've seen from the vetting system that we have in place now. You can leave that in place while still guaranteeing the elected component, which allows for representation process. So a 5-4 model would make a lot of sense. Would get you that degree of balance between the two. And so those are kind of the main areas of focus that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention. And I'm happy to answer questions or concerns you have.
Senior Deputy Majority Leader, oh, and then I know
last week was school board. As most of you know, I was recently asked when school board were forced at times to make decisions they don't want to make, but they have. The only one that can get rid of the appointed school board is the elected school board, like us, you serve the people. In this case, you're not doing the right thing. I seen it done with Willow Street School. Administration, they put so much pressure on certain school board members when we last minute to shut them. Came from remaining open, they shut down the whole thing. Elected school board, what I feel some type of within the Providence school board. So they might have these degrees, and these qualifications, and all this stuff, but they don't know the needs of our children in our neighborhoods. Where somebody from the neighborhood that runs for the school board knows it's going to for our kids. I mean, we see it with this administration recently, just giving away our schools to the state. I will not moving forward. I will not support anything except a full elected school board. I think even with the hybrid, and again, let me back up. First, I want to thank all you guys. Time with this commission. I sat on the boundaries, it's not easy commissions. The hybrid sounds good, but you're still giving the mayor and the authority and power. Which shouldn't be. Years, and years and years and years. People have been fighting for the elected school board. And people have been fighting for the appointed school board. And the administration is the one that fights for the appointed school board. Why? Because it gives them that much power. On a board that's should be thought of our children. We have right now with the state taking over our school system. We have the worst quality of education right now in the state of Rhode Island. We would never even ask President Councilman. We would never even ask. This never even came before violence. Okay? We wake up on the next morning, we're reading the paper how the state of Rhode Island. The school board had no choice. Nobody had a choice. But a fully elected school board, or a school board period, I had this conversation with Sean earlier. I don't know what kind of authority they want to have anyway, as long as the state is involved. My goal moving forward was, then again, we had that. We remove it all. We need our schools back. We need a school board that cares. We need an elected school board. People like us, again. I run in my neighborhood because I was getting sick and tired of seeing only a certain portion of my neighborhood being taken care of. We had an overabundance of my neighborhood. You know, from Walking Street Bridge that way, Douglas Avenue, Chad Road, go that way. It was a forgotten area. That's why I did. For the same reason, that's why I would always support the elected school board. Our kids should be the most important thing to us right now. We can't go 5-4. I mean, so we say this. We can't go 5-4. I don't care about this the way it's set up. We need to be able to have school board committee people that we can deal with as parents, as people. When you go to a school board meeting now with an elected school board, I'm sorry, appointed school board, and you get told you can't speak as a parent, or you get shut down when you start speaking as a parent, or you get told you got 1 minute to speak on something that has to do with your child's education. An elected school board is going to be more inclined because they have to be, because they're going to be serving the people. It's been crazy that we in Providence, okay, are the only municipality that does not have an elected school board. If it's working well in other cities and towns, then why are we so forced to hold on to that power of an appointed school board? Yeah, I really go on it. This is a soft spot for me. I know everybody knows I've been very boisterous on it. 4 years ago when we started this stuff, I've been very boisterous during my campaigns, during other people's campaigns about not electing them, because they're not paid for elected school board. So hopefully, we can stay open-minded. I know that this whole process, regardless of what happens, has to go and we're by full council anyway. So I'm hoping that the full school, elected school board, if you guys decide on this hybrid stuff, that we don't get just one set of us. And we get both, like we did with the board boundaries. We set multiple boundaries to the council. And then we went down and to have any type of appointed school board members is ridiculous. Let's get with the times. We reach out to your colleagues in other cities and towns and ask them, how come you didn't wait for elected school board years ago? See what they tell you.
Actually, no, it's Councilman Castillo.
No,
Councilman Castillo. Councilman Castillo.
Okay,
Councilman
When
Castillo
you-
has the floor.
when you have it about, talking about election, putting in the body, because I'm a political person, I know how hard it's be an election. So that people have to spend money and, get flyers for the people, they go back and forth to knock his door to be elected for a school board. So I don't think like we can have it like possible, like the real people can be like there, because sometimes we do election for political people, but it's not people elect, but it's not real the good one. They elect a person because they have a more money or they have a more source to get campaign. So that's my concern. That cannot happen with the school board. Like we got person in here, like they really don't care. They only care about, like being there. So we have to be careful, like how we do that, because I don't want to be responsible. Like they say my name here, like Carmen did it, you did it, Vargas did it. This is like, I believe that's a good idea. We need representation in each neighborhood, more than one school board in each one. But I believe, like, I don't believe in that election. So that's my comment.
Christian, Mr. Chair. Sure.
I don't think there's a perfect system for school. Be it elected or be it arguments are perfect. What concerns me, the councilwoman just touched on, you don't know who's really going to get elected, or their motivation to run. School department, well, educating our children is what it does. And it's also the largest expenditure the city has. That's why administration needs to have a part of this process, and just free for all, whoever gets elected controls it. And that's why initially I was a supporter of keeping Wales, but I moved to this hybrid system. And I really do think that it should be 5 and 5. The concept of having to have an odd number on a body doesn't concern me, because now you're going to need 6 votes to pass the teacher's salary. You're going to need 6 votes to recommend a budget. I also believe, and I don't know if it's in here, that the budgetary process should remain the same. I don't know if, Sean, if it does. But I was unable to attend your presentation. Otherwise, you could have a runaway school board, or runaway school system. The budget that they present would still have to go through the administration, and then obviously the council has the power of person to go through that process with the veto power back with the mayor. And that vetting, that system would control control the expenditures. Some of them, I'm sure they were, most of the ideas would be good, I don't know, but when you have bad ideas, or whatever the issue is, my nature side, so. We're not belaboring this, for a lot of reasons, I'm in favor of a 5, 5, 9, a 9, a 5, 4. As far as the districts, that would be up to the council and how they want to go.
Commissioner?
Like to see a 5 to 5. My thinking this whole process is that partly elected, partly appointed. Balance, has to be balanced, has to be fair, has to be just, diversity needed, inclusion needed, has to be equitable. The criteria, procedure, process has to be developed. The water department has to look at everything, make sure we do what we want to do there. We have to have individuals in the community, unenforced, but also keep in mind that they have expertise in such a thing. Education is probably the most important thing that people get out of this. Again, the one problem is number one. Also have to realize that this going forward is just a proposal because the state is overseeing the school project. That the problem is, I believe it's going to happen. So this will be a proposal. Take over the system, do everything for our children. I think 5 and 5 is fair. I need course. It's going to cost students. Also, I need a water department. Look at this in every area. Make sure that we can do this. And it's really a compromise. I want up to the community and talk to someone elected, someone appointed. I think this will keep everybody happy, and then finally have everybody coming to the table. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever you are, coming to the table to make sure our kids are getting a quality education for once. I was on the committee, John Hopkins, going to school to see how they were running. It needs work. It needs to work. And so I think we go through the process of working together, all of us together, and that give us a voice. I think we can make things happen, great things happen. So the state gives it back to the school department, back to us, when we're ready to rock and roll and make things happen. So I'm going to come, being the community, and balance, inclusive, education for everybody. I think it's done. I think 5 to 5 does it. So if you're a mayor, you're coming in, you want the school department to be number one. You're going to appoint quality people beyond that. Then now you people, this is your problems, opportunity to select people. So you're going to get all types of folks working together as one to move forward, like it should have been done years and years and years ago. So I'm glad you gave us a voice, appreciate you, and I think that's the way we should move forward.
Mr. President, I would just add that
Mr. Ritchie?
on the appointment process, Commissioner Montague and I are absolutely 100% favor of keeping the current system. That the batting and the
Oh, yeah.
qualifications and all is not just an automatic pick by the mayor, would have to go through that process.
That's correct.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
I get, that's your council.
Yeah.
Councilwoman. Councilwoman.
There's a couple of things I'd like to say. One, I think we have to be very careful about what we expect to happen as a result. In other words, I think there's been some presentations already that whether it's hybrid, whether it's elected, whether it's appointed, different cities. Yeah. I think that's one research. So I just think we have to be very careful about what what we expect from this change. I have looked, I don't know if you have your packet, but you had a chance to look at the remarks by Representative Kislak. I was one of 3 council women who testified against the state takeover. Rachel Miller kept her money on the ones that's voted against the state takeover. And we have a lot of work to do for and because I don't think the takeover has resulted in and so what the Representative Kislak was talking about, and I think it makes some sense, is we really have to take a step back and have convene stakeholder group and really talk about what's happened since the takeover, how we get our schools back, what that looks like, is it better achieved through an elected school board member, a hybrid system, appointed. This has to be a much bigger conversation. And I realize that if we don't make a decision now, if we can't get the stakeholder group together and make some decisions, we then have to get 3,000 signatures so that we can convene another charter commission, which is not an easy thing to do. But if we can get constituents engaged, and we can make an informed decision, and this can be part of a larger discussion. I say that my backup position, of course, is the hybrid system. I'm worried about under-influence many different groups in our community. And I realize that we can't have the employees actually sitting on but we've got the union, we've got charter school advocates, and we've got a lot of people that are trying to influence what happens on that school board. So, I mean, that's it for my comments. I'm very wishful that we can have a larger conversation that's needed.
Commissioner.
I still want to say that. I can honestly say in the 16 years that I've been city council, I've seen appointed school board members that we use. Absolutely. And as far as voting, I don't know how many, but I don't suspect you. How many people fight a lot? Just leave them alone. Because then you may never get anything. I'm elected. Want something. Administration doesn't, this is my people. This is my people. The others who move to hybrid, what is decided, we get intense, but it's going to be hard work. Especially with Louis, even numbers of both sides, 5, 6, and 7. This committee.
Thank you.
Out there rallying for the elected school board.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, John.
Actually, the commissioner.
Yeah, I
Commissioner?
just want to echo what's been said. That's definitely a concern that just because we opt for elections doesn't mean that we don't have adequate representation. That's going to be the most of the parents and the students. So I am particularly concerned about interest groups, right? And so that's a major concern. So I'm also concerned about the fact that we have these conversations that we're moving really quickly and navigate to the community at large. we should be including, the community to be part of this discussion rather than just,
Right.
yeah, so that was what I wanted to say. Learning, it needs to be a deeper conversation rather than just, us here at the table.
So let me just say, I think, I think you haven't been following the process. The process has been that we've done a lot of charrettes. People come forward and talk about this issue, and now we're fleshing this issue out. Then, proposal will then go on a recommendation of one man or whatever to the full council. Then the full council goes to public hearing, and it's further conversation. Then, the final decision, with all respect to everybody, I think we're missing one thing. People of Providence are going to decide whether this gets approved or anything gets approved. So there's nothing in the back of it. The council does not make a unilateral decision. None of people at this table know that the council does that. People of Providence decide yes or no on anything that the proposed change. Yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. I don't understand that in which people on YouTube, Facebook, and other places. People of Providence will vote. Now, I understand maybe has a suspicion about the election process. Maybe you do or not, but I'm gonna go back because I'm not JFK Democrat. I know it's not very, it's a passe conversation. But I believe in democracy. I believe in the rules. I believe in the election process. I believe in people campaigning and explaining what their position is. I think that's far more democratic than simply I get elected mayor and I get to appoint who I want on a board who then controls my children's destiny. Now, you all feel comfortable with that. I'm sure you do. But everybody likes who gets elected, doesn't get elected. Who's mayor, who's not mayor. No, mayors make the right decision, they want decision. But the idea that the power of the entire position of the school department would be put in the hands of just one person alone, is also, does give me pause. So, and then that has nothing to do with the vetting system, the appointment system, but the fact that the idea that the democratic process is far more flawed than a single appointment by one person seems counterintuitive. I understand the ether of communism and socialism and this idea that democracy is a bad thing is becoming greater and greater, but it's not in my neighborhood. People in my neighborhood want democracy. They like vote. They like the fact that they came here. They come from all over the world. People are representing. Well, and to have the right to vote, because most of them come from countries that were denied the right to vote. They come knocking on my door, say, we want to vote. They come to vote, and I'm proud to do everything I can to empower them to vote. I don't get a chance to anybody says that the public is going to make the final decision no matter what happens here on the council for later on. None of us are going to make the final decision. And that's the beauty of democracy. And I'm going to keep defending democracy. And I know it's not something that's very popular lately, but I will. And I will continue to fight democracy. In the public as long as I can, because I believe people have the right to have their voice in ballot box. It's like they choose whether to vote or not to vote. So I'm not so down on the democratic process, the voting process. I find that when I have to devalue the democratic process and the voter and their ability to think, be educated, and make a well-educated decision, is actually kind of condescending. I believe in the people that vote every day. Whether you agree with how they vote or not, I believe in their right to vote, and I believe they are educated. I believe they go out there. And I believe, by the way, if this ever does go on the ballot, I'm not saying it isn't. If it does, I believe the people of Providence will be fully engaged and get fully understanding. But let me say something else. What I think is interesting is it's not like we're saying we have a great system that's humming in 75% mathematics and 85% in English. We're in zeros and negative numbers in our school system, folks. Our school system's in real trouble. The idea that we're trying to maintain a system that's not working makes no sense to me. Giving the population of people in Providence an opportunity to say in the school department every day, so I don't respect and I will fight this. In my neck of the woods, when I say my center, I'm the west end, yeah, who cares? And these three wards can't have a voice. They're gonna have a voice. And I like that they'll have a voice. And I believe they'll be educated enough to elect somebody who's gonna give them that voice in the school. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with some campaigns and saying why I like to represent you. Why I'd like to give you a voice in the school. You're right, special interest, and a special interest everywhere. Especially the biggest special interest I know is the parents and the kids. Because people are gonna be held accountable. Because when you're on the point school board, you're not, the accountability is definitely not the same. I'm not saying, it's definitely, because you only have to be accountable to one person and one person only. When you have to run, you have to be accountable to roughly 30-some-odd-thousand people. And you're gonna have to listen to their concerns, and they're gonna come, by the way, this happens, people in my neck of the woods, 6 or 15, 7, they're gonna know who their school board members, and they're gonna come knocking on their door on Sunday morning, if they come to my door on Sunday morning. They're gonna know who that person is, and say, I'm challenging. I'm looking for you to give me a voice. I'm looking for you to turn the system around. Versus when you're appointed, most people don't know who's appointed. People my age, they don't know who's the appointed, where they live, how do I get a hold of them? I mean, Councilman Ritchie mentioned you go to the school board. Well, there's something about our democracy when you can go to your local elected official, and it's a council person, senator, representative, or school board member, and knock on their door and tell them your concern. All I'm saying is, I'm defending democracy. Whichever way it goes, I am not going to stand here and have people keep on telling me we're dying this great democracy in the election process. With all the respect, it's insulting. People will every day go and vote. They have a right to vote, they're educated to vote, they can vote for you, or they can't. But we should be embracing our democracy, embracing this country. I know my constituents do. So I'm not saying you have to do this, but I'm actually spinning it off because I think in lieu of the fact that we just celebrated America's birthday, albeit it's not the most perfect country, the fact that it has a great democracy is important to also shine a light on. Commissioner. Roberts.
Thank you, Council President. Members of the Chair, you have great ideas. 5 people. 5 people is fine. But now we're talking about 5 people to be appointed. That's not fine because who's going to pay for this mailing that these elect officials will run to be elected? And then it's not going to be fair for them that when they become elected a school board member, so we want to appoint him to be next to him and he didn't spend a dime. That's not fair. So I'm very fine with 5 people to run for office. And we can appoint 2 or 3 to make an even number, not even number. 1 from the administration and 1 from the council. So will be 7 people, so will be an even number. But the 5 people will have the power. And the 2 people that will be appointed will be transmit information, what's going on with the school board.
Mr. Vargas came up with the third. 5, that's it. We did a 5 and 3, which is 5.
Or 5,
New
2.
appointment, I think it's 5 and 2. This is 5 and 2, 5 and
2.
4. Councilman Anthony.
Would it be possible to recognize Councilwoman LaFortune?
I'm sorry, Councilwoman.
I appreciate it. Right now, we're having a conversation. Anything else? Any comments?
I would say this. Honorable council members and commission members here. The option before the voter, when you say the voter, it's heavily weighted what we can hear, whether it's a yes or no of the vote. So what we put before the voter is all the voters want to have. They're gonna have democracy in electing 5 voters. I don't disagree with you. As far as fair, Councilman Vargas, it's not fair. Life's not fair. But I don't think people are running, if they're running for the school committee and they're concerned about the salary and how someone else got there, then they're the wrong person. Yeah, on the school board. And I think it's a healthy tension. Administration with the elected, someone has to represent the administration and the city and the council, budgetary process, and the overall responsibility still lies. Unless I'm wrong, in this charter, with the electeds here in City Hall, not on the school board. And so they need to be part of this at that level. And it's a healthy tension. And I'm not at all concerned about an even number. Where I work in the state senate, it's 38 senators, need an even number. As the state budget, you need 2/3 of the Constitution. So there should be a high bar when you're spending this kind of money, when you're picking a curriculum, doing a budget, all the important issues that are in a teacher's contract besides the cost. It should be high bar. It shouldn't be quorum who happens to be there. Those are my comments.
Commissioner Marks?
That you're right, so if that's the case, we have to look for a solution that everybody has to be elected. What I'm looking for is to run a campaign, you want to be spending money. That's the point. If we want to say, okay, who's going to be running to be a school board, and then they will find out, oh, but by the way, we're getting 5 more people appointed by the mayor and the council. So what are they going to say? No, I'm not running. And
Well, that's exactly the problem, because maybe only wealthy people will run, and that's why for this other process, some other folks who maybe can't afford a campaign are not in a position to get elected.
if I get a,
The
I'm
nature
sorry,
of the district will have an opportunity to serve as well.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, but if I get a wealthy people from here, let me know where he's at. I can look for him. But at least,
Campaigns are financed.
Listen, wait, let me finish.
thank you.
One second,
Campaigns are financed.
one second, hang on. You all set?
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Commissioner, you.
Yeah, I just, again, that is a concern that, the average person does not have the time and the resources to run, to be on the, even if they have the greatest intentions, right? And so it will take us, particularly a specific group of people that can finance a campaign and they can allocate the time to run a campaign. And in an average parent doesn't have that. And that's the reality of this. And that's what's concerning here, that you will be electing people who are not the average person. That is the concern. And I'm not disagreeing that democracy is important, and I'm not, against democracy. I am against that we are suggesting that by opening this to be an election, that we will get better representation on the school board. Because I don't believe that to be true.
Commissioner Kessler? Thank you, Mr. President. I can tell you as a parent and as a former elected official that there's been a desire for change in the composition of the school board. From my perspective, it's been switching from an appointed school board to an elected school board. Because I'll tell you what, the appointed school board, from my perspective as a parent, has oftentimes fallen on complete obtuseness, deaf ears to what the community has risen to say what we want for our kids. Just the way it's been. Look, it started from the time before I was even on the council. So we were informed that our school, my daughter's school, her elementary school, was going to close with a little note put into her backpack when she was sent home for winter break. That's how we found out they were going to close West Broadway Elementary School. The school board just acted. There was a decision from the superintendent, and it had clear support from the school board, especially because after the community rose to defend the school board still pulled through with that decision. It's just the way it went. I need to hear the fact that we've heard, and we can look back in records, there are sections of the city whose populations have not been represented by school board members. It's just a fact. Right? So it's part of the reason why I am in complete support of the regionalization as presented here. If we're going to be moving to some form of an elected school board. Now, look, when I first heard the presentation, I was in favor of a completely elected school board. 2 members from each region,
And that will guarantee representation, proportional representation from all parts of the state. After hearing the, discussions and the arguments, I'm open to the idea of a hybrid system. I'm not sure if we need to change the number of actual school board members. I've never heard that 9 was the problem. The problem was we had people who were not accountable to the people who I live with, my neighbors, and who I also represented afterwards. So, which doesn't mean that there's not merit to the hybrid system too, where there's reasons why, why maybe a proportion of the representatives of the school board members can also be appointed. I would say that if we're going to be, changing the structure, which I am in favor of, that maybe we do a hybrid system where instead of 5 and 5, or even 5 and 2, perhaps it's 5 and 4. Where it's 5 elected, 1 from each region, and then it's 4 appointed by the mayor. And let's address one more thing here too. If we decide not to change the structure, we're still making a decision. Right? We need to act now because it's time to change what's written in the charter. And as the council president pointed out, there's a lot of opportunity from this point until the actual election, which is in November, for even more public comment on this. But again, I've been hearing it for years, not only while I was in the position as an elected official in my neighborhood, but also before that, when again, there was a unilateral decision to close my daughter's elementary school, my neighbor's kid's elementary school. In fact, the way our school system set up, it touched parents from around the city, right? Because we don't have major schools. There was 0 input from community. And that was with an appointed school board. And the school board would not stand up to advocate for the community. That's just a fact. We've gone through plenty of other rounds of school closings where, I'll say it seemed like the decision was pretty tough with an appointed school board. But to me, that needs to definitely change.
Councilman Steer, Commissioner.
I really agree, our neighborhood represent, the school board, because end of the day, they have the kids there, they know what they want. The only thing is I cannot say, you finance campaign for the people want to be in the board? Or no?
What I was saying is that anyone can find, do
help community to be in the election, right? They made board, the people want to apply, they make sure people for the neighborhood can be elected. Because my concern is, someone want to be in the school board, but they don't have any idea to run for the school board. So who can let them know how? And also, they have a 5 opponent, because that's 5 people want one seat. The people can get the money and move it. And sometimes that's what I say. Sometimes, people want to do something good, but they don't have an opportunity to do it because the other one have more money or more friends and stuff like that. And we still have the wrong people sit down in the wrong place in the place, and the community don't have it that, don't have it that representation. And that's my concern. That I love that idea, we have a representative for the neighborhood in each ward, because we need to change the system in here, because that's reality. Kids go to charter school, have best education, but our kids in the public school is disaster. my daughter, and also, some parents have two jobs. They don't have an opportunity to sit down with the kids to what do they do. My daughter is student in the school, but I always behind them and also give it, because give you then like, okay, you have to do this and that, and put more like the teacher give it to them, and I help them to be encouraged and everything. But it's not the same kids and probably have the same opportunity. So sometimes I see like, I believe, like we need to get the right people in the right place. And sometimes, that's scaring me, like, the wrong people can be there. And we continue to be in the same issues, even we do that election.
Sure, I think we talked about couple other models.
So,
Were you done? I'm sorry. Were you done?
you know, I believe, we need to make sure what we want to do in that change. Because sometimes you change something and we don't help, we hurt. And that's a cycle I want to do, like hurt more, like we can help. So, like maybe get more conversation and see how we can really improve the community, can be one seat in the school board. I believe that's much better.
I think there's a couple of additional models, which was 5 and 5. 5 and 4, I think. Revised 5 and 2. So just so you can flesh those out. I think also, I think all of it, we all agree, as commissioners, that if, regardless, if we end up going with it, if it's appointed, I agree, Tony, we're not changing the appointment process. I don't think we're going to change the appointment process at child, right? We keep the appointment process the same. I think you need to make a note of that. Right? I mean, whatever, I think when you show the other potential models, I think you need to make a note that the appointment process will remain the same.
Sir, Can I ask a clarifying question as well? Because, in addition to maintaining the current appointment procedure, I've kind of been running consistently with the 5 regions from the elected component. Are there any variations on that the commission is seeing, or is there comfort to find areas? If there are changes, I can certainly do that, but I need some time to make sure I get that done.
Commissioner Morris?
Can we use the same criteria for the candidates?
Yes, this is this right here, yeah. that's-
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm
it
saying
is.
that the candidates to be elected, can we use the same, no, right? The law doesn't allow it.
I don't think it's going to be qualified candidates.
No, okay, all right.
On that. It's a natural borders, looks like, that's placed in the work.
That'd be actually impossible. Well, why? Because you just did, you distribute, right?
No,
And
I
then,
know.
and then you won't have the same amount.
No, I understand, but not these. How that's the issue.
So in terms of how the regions are constructed, like just for the dedication, so legislative services who work with us do the redistricting process, since they're still working with, say, cancer, that are having put this together for review. The regions are constructed with 3 wards per region. If you'll notice, there are check marks. At least the 5 regions still falls through the standard deviation rate of 5%. But kind of incidentally, with the redistricting process, it does like deviation from the acceptable population when it comes to unsolicited voting rate. So although there will be certain areas that may have a slightly higher number than others, they are still within the standard deviation necessary to be fully compliant with equal access for. It is close, yes, that is correct. But it's
And
still,
the others were,
they are still compliant, I can say that, but they are collected in this time. And I should also just mention that the region's idea in terms of finding regions, that's kind of what I'm looking for. This map itself would not be included in any proposal when it comes to binding the city to these specific lines, that would have to go through the same traditional process as.
Mr. President, thank you. John, you did mention to me earlier, removal process of the elected would be, clarify that, the same as the removal of an elected official, the council of the mayor.
That is correct. So there, there are multiple charter sections that will be implicated with whatever final version of this proposal is put together. Trying to get kind of consensus on whatever the,
More like
the
the
configuration is important, but you're certainly right. These would now become elected officials. They would be subject to the provisions under, Article 2, specifically for elected officials when it comes to their removal, vacancy, et cetera. And so, yes, they
I
would be
think it should
subject to
track the council first more in May because it's not at all.
that. Is
In terms of how many signatures are up on there.
and that's something I would certainly go with the law.
Yeah, as long as there's a method. And also on the appointed, that's all set because I believe they're in 403 or 403B.
That is correct, yes. They're still appointed.
Okay, so
You
that-
need clarity from the board.
Yes, yep. I know Ken Shepherd was on the line earlier after working closely with them.
I think that that will also be modified.
But whenever the new 403
Right,
is.
we can modify that process.
Yeah. Yeah, so. Motion to judge the carries. Public council. The hearing process. So all that stuff. So that's not my group.
Mr. Martin? Mr. Zebedee? Did you want to, you flesh out those other issues?
Yeah, I'm happy to, I should say, I'm prepared to make the final changes to all charter sections necessary based on whatever the consensus is.
And the board also require an appointed council. Same.
Then, I just want to say, actually, I got a comment showing and putting the map together, because I think it was, looking at 5 regions, it makes sense, because north, south, east, west, central, every area gets representation. And that's, I think that's important. And the city's actually naturally created like that, it's 5 sections, it's amazing. So I got to commend them in how they put it together. And it makes sense, because you actually have it. And I would hope if we do go this road, this would be the map that gets adopted, because the issue was we didn't want one area to overpower another. We didn't want one area to have a greater voice than another. We want to make sure that every area, north, south, east, west, and central, had a voice at the table. The biggest issue is this, for me, from my part, is that I've heard consistently, is all neighborhoods do not have a voice at the table. They don't. And that's the problem, it's a concern. And this would at least give every neighborhood and state a seat at that table. So I gotta commend the map. I think when you start trying to, who knows what the future will bring, start doing it, you get caught up in bad politics, which would then create one area to overpower other areas. And that's always concerned.
Mr. Chairman. Councilor LaFortune has COVID, and I'm wondering if you might recognize her, so we should speak to this issue.
I appreciate that, but what happens is that there's other people online. So therefore, it would be, and I haven't done it this entire process. So if I do that now for her, they'd say you gave an exception for one, not for the other. I appreciate you bringing it up a second time, and I gave you the same answer that, but it would be disrespectful to have everybody else on the do it, and I wouldn't do that. We're not, that's not what this means. So I appreciate it. If I had sorry she has COVID, she can do a written form, but then it'd be disrespectful to the others who would then want to also. So all the respect, Councilman Anthony, I appreciate you making the statement. You said it twice, I made a decision. I'm gonna
And
move
just to
forward.
add about something else.
I understand, if you want to be her voice at this time, you can, but the problem is
I
the
don't know
other
what she
people.
has to say, but I will ask, in terms of the process, and I'm hoping that once the committee has some sort of decision, you know, make a recommendation, that it be in a format so that we can inform the public and so that they can be ready and they understand the significance of what the changes are going to be, so that they can be ready for the public hearing that the city council is going to have, because it's very hard to follow. Before, you know, I can't bear to follow the format, what the decisions are being made, and specifically, it just needs to be documents so that we allow for the public to participate in an informed way.
Do you know the company, Anthony, previous meetings, we've all been working hard many hours. We've actually boiled down the actual specific issues, and we're moving forward with that. So I had commend our commissioners, and the commissioners have been attending, because we've been going through that process. So we have been boiling down the format, exactly what exactly is even considered even a charter conversation, what should be even an ordinance, and what should be basically not even a conversation. So, and actually, the commissioners have been very diligent on that, trying to boil it down. So we're not there yet. Well, and we've been spending hours and nights here going through that exact process, and people will be viewing and coming to.
Councilwoman,
We're gonna do it.
concern on that. This. Well, those are just notes. And the question is going to actually formatted, presented. I don't know who actually writes the question, I guess.
Be the Lord
A
of
long time, but they should definitely try to put it as straightforward as possible, so. Because without context, or without understanding, the term of the board, it's very much in the weeds. I mean, even I look at that. With this one, and I have cross-reference back to what we were talking about. So, yeah, it definitely needs to be.
That's a working document, that's not a final document.
Plain English as best can be, and also achieve legally what we're trying to achieve.
And the final document will be created by the law department themselves, which will make it easier if whatever the voter question is big. So we're not actually putting the question together, we're just putting the ideas, we're synthesizing, going down the
We should
ideas.
get a draft, we should get a draft.
And that's what the CSIS is working.
Okay, and the other thing, Mr. President, it goes to, in terms of the voter,
Yes.
well, on what we actually put. This is all suggestions. Yeah.
Too much.
It's like what people all kidding aside, I don't know what the magic number is. Is it 6 questions? Is it 10? I would say no more than 10. So more than maybe flipping over, they even know how. So we flip over, and
I
they
think the
go
way it's
mistaken, fill out the front.
When the commission puts its recommendation together, the council is, can then begin the process of how many it goes on to the ballot. And then the public will determine.
It's gonna be tough to get to the ballot for some of these issues. Not school board, obviously, but it's from your school, plus that, we got that. Some of this other stuff is, making us have to not make it to the ballot because it's just something.
That's good.
Well, in terms of time, I mean, this may not be the appropriate juncture in tonight's meeting, but I think we need a timetable. When does the ballot have to be the Secretary of State? I'm correct in thinking it's sometime in August.
State.
8. In the meantime, we have to this report goes to the council. Council has to vet it, has to be a public hearing, has to get rid of the 8th. We may have to meet frequently to wrap this up.
Yeah. Good point. Next week's gonna be busy. We're gonna work it out.
And I think we should just get it done next week, as best we can, and get it over to council, so they have time to properly do it.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Special commissioners? None of the further business this time. I ask you to begin that process. I asked to see something that's not synthesizing. I think we narrowed down actually 6 or 7 things yesterday. Anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can now, he or she can then actually start formalizing those questions. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Good thing about-
That was.
Okay. Another list we're going for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
past couple of weeks. We've been boiling it down, boiling it down. That's it.
All right,
So we
well,
can-
then I don't.
That was the list, and then
Concerned
it's-
about.
Yes, yeah, So Councilman Anthony showed us weeks ago.
Yeah, she doesn't realize.
She hasn't
We're
come to
crossing
the
that out,
meeting,
you know,
so now she forgot.
because
all
they
about
were
it.
3 pages.
Right, so now we boiled it down, remember, that last sheet yesterday, we boiled it down again, didn't we? So we've been methodically and publicly and transparently going through every single item and putting it down to get it towards an end date. So I think we're down like 6 or 7 issues to that. And we said, okay, remember that, that was last night. So today, now we get deeper down to elected or hybrid issue, and then if we do some more, that actually, and figure out something's okay, then we should then boil down, okay, here are the 4 or 5 things. If it's Councilman Narducci mentioned, Councilman Anthony mentioned, you do both, and you do elected, hybrid, you know, we present both ideas to the council, and do that, so we have those options. Which is fine. So we're probably going through that process. So I told you, so we'll get there. So that- yesterday was a turn.
Right.
I mean, you know, so.
They really did a lot of work.
Is it, huh? So
Yeah, thank you for this, it's very good.
so I've been trying to, we've been going methodical through everything, trying to get the public to see, trying to get, flesh it out. But I also, and I understand that, to, you know, I say a couple, unfortunately, the Michael, problems that this is not that kind of process at this point. The issue is that I can't, if I start opening it there, then all the other people online turn into a different conversation. Right now, this is deliberation discussion. And going through it. You know, we get to the public hearing, then the public process can further go deeper into the public opinion. Because we've already cast away a bunch of things we're not even going to even put forward to the council. Right? So then the council will have a list.
Well, the
and then-
council can put it back in
and
if they so wish.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but the public's gonna see whatever potential list is, and they can weigh in any individual one, right? Or-
Council President, I sincerely apologize, but I'm a council person and I'm recovering for COVID. I've had my hand up for over 40 minutes. This is incredibly unfair. You should put these things in writing.
Actually, Councilman, I'm not gonna start engaging at this time, but you know, I'm not gonna go down that road. We haven't done it for anybody at this time. This is, so I'm gonna keep moving along. So,
But I have engaged in conversations via Zoom. You change the rules constantly on me. And I think it's incredibly unfair if you're making it accessible via Zoom. This is not an argument. It's your lack of transparency in the process. And this is not the first time you've done it.
Councilman
It's
duly
quite
noted in your
frustrating,
statement.
sir.
Councilman duly noted in your statement, I respectfully disagree, okay? You haven't been part of this process at all. You haven't been coming to these
That is not
meetings.
true. We can go back to some of the videos. I have engaged in the process. I have commented. I have joined the meeting. I was in the meeting yesterday and I was listening on yesterday. So you can't say that, sir, if you don't see me.
Yes, actually, Councilwoman.
But you can't say that
Thank
because
you.
that is not
Councilman,
true.
Thank you. Councilman, I know what you're trying to do, this whole baiting game. I'm not.
This
gonna
is not
fall-
a baiting game, sir. I have been sitting here for over 40 minutes.
Councilwoman, thank you.
You
Thank
have
you.
done this to me repeatedly and it's incredibly unfair and it's not okay. It's not a baiting game. What I'm acknowledging is a lack of clear guidelines of how you're, how you're conducting your meeting. This is not a baiting game. Do not undermine me like that and do not, please do not do that.
I know what you want me to do and you're trying to get me.
I don't know what I want you to do is to acknowledge
For the
someone
baiting
who has
game
their
that you
hands
want
up
to do.
and they're
I'm
asking to speak
respect
and
the
been waiting
process.
patiently.
Thank you.
Sir, you have to
Any
put
more
these in
items?
writing. You have to put
Any
these
more items
guidelines
before
in
this committee? Thank you, Madam Councilman. Any other further business for this committee? We have a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, second, all in favor? Aye. I know the meeting.